A patient using an iron lung, which works by changing the air pressure inside the chamber to force the patient's lungs to expand and contract, helping them breathe when their respiratory muscles are paralyzed. A hippopotamus pulling a small cart. Although it may look humorous, using hippos for transportation was considered impractical and dangerous. A man playing a harp on the street. This is a Celtic harp, a type of string instrument commonly used in traditional music. A woman sits inside a fabric enclosure filled with hot air, covering her body from the neck down to concentrate heat on the body in a portable sauna. The isolator. This device was created to completely eliminate distractions and help the wearer maintain intense focus while working or reading. A strange beauty contest called Faceless was held in Cliftonville, England in 1936, where contestants wore paper bags over their heads so judges could evaluate only their figures and legs. A woman cleaning the house, reflecting the enormous workload housewives of that era had to carry, often lasting up to 18 hours a day. Two women wearing early gas masks in St. Louis, Missouri. They were used by civilians during drills or threats of chemical weapon attacks. Two little girls sitting on a vintage motorcycle from the British brand Velocette. Two Korean women wearing white hanbok. They are wearing large hats, a style of clothing commonly worn by people of that era. A playful yet meaningful moment of an absent-minded mother innocently appearing in everyday life, captured by her son. Members of the Brixton Girl Guides lined books along the curb in an effort to collect around 300,000 books, stretching up to a mile, for recycling purposes. Sports parade, representing physical strength, unity, and the celebration of the Soviet youth sports movement. A man sitting inside the Dynasphere, a strange one-wheeled vehicle patented in 1930 by John Archibald Purvis. The Patterson-Greenfield automobile, produced by C.R. Patterson & Sons around 1915. Frederick Patterson transformed the company from carriage production to automobiles, becoming the first and only African American to own and operate an automobile manufacturing company in the United States. A nurse checking on and caring for young patients being treated inside negative pressure ventilators, commonly known as iron lungs. Scientists at systems labs in California using large blackboards and ladders to calculate satellite trajectories entirely by hand, before electronic computers became widespread. A dangerous motorsport known as motorcycle chariot racing, where a driver stood in a Roman-style chariot pulled by two motorcycles. The sport was popular at fairs and sporting events in the United States and Australia during the 1920s and 1930s. Divers using homemade equipment. The devices on the ground are hand-operated air pumps used to supply air to the divers from shore. The little girl is wearing a plastic artificial breathing device on her chest for polio treatment. The ducklings were brought into the hospital room as an early form of animal therapy to help young patients feel happier and reduce stress. An elderly man riding a vintage scooter while carrying a large backpack. Another person is riding a bicycle beside him. The little girl is looking up at a man standing behind the counter, creating a friendly and nostalgic everyday scene. A woman sitting inside the Simca Fulgur concept car, designed in 1958 by Robert Opron. It was inspired by flying saucers and envisioned to run on nuclear or electric power. A man carrying a large load of goods on his back in the street, reflecting the hardship of manual labor in many parts of the world. German women washing clothes at a public water pump on the streets of Berlin. Beside them is a German armored reconnaissance vehicle that had been knocked out after World War II. The face of the Statue of Liberty, showing the head of the statue being completed in France before it was transported to the United States. A boy helping his friend put on an Adolf Hitler mask to prepare for Guy Fawkes Night, a tradition in which British children often made effigies to collect donation money. The vehicle was designed so the whole family could exercise together outdoors while the mother could still spend time sewing. A pet swan being helped into a car by its owner. The swan, Layla, was known for its intelligence and close bond with the family, and was even said to be able to open doors by itself. Infants were put to sleep outdoors in below freezing temperatures because it was believed that fresh air would strengthen the immune system and improve sleep. A childcare practice common in the Soviet Union and several European countries during the mid-20th century. 3 children dressed up for Halloween in the United States. The masks often had crude and unsettling designs, helping create the holiday's signature eerie atmosphere. The world's first female flight attendants of United Airlines. They wore matching dark coats to create a professional appearance and protect themselves from the weather. A woman wearing a fitted cloche hat and a pleated dress walking an alligator as a pet, a pastime that was considered fashionable and trendy at the time. This iron cage was designed to hang outside apartment windows, allowing young children to get sunlight and fresh air when families lived in crowded urban areas with little outdoor space. Chorus girls wearing performance costumes combined with military helmets and gas masks at the Windmill Theater. A woman using a smile-shaped mouthpatch and tape on her nose as part of a strange attitude adjustment method. A police officer carefully inspecting the ankles of female contestants, who revealed only the lower parts of their legs from behind a curtain during the Perfect Ankles contest. The first atmospheric diving suit, invented in the early 20th century. Standing beside it is inventor Chester E. McDuffie. The suit was designed to maintain surface-level pressure inside, allowing divers to reach great depths safely. These 3-wheeled microcars featured an aircraft-inspired design, highlighted by a bubble canopy that flipped forward to allow the driver to enter. A performer using a long metal tool to perform fire eating right at the dining table, facing another woman who calmly drinks water. An experimental aircraft designed by Alexander Graham Bell. The aircraft featured a wall-like wing structure made up of 3,393 tetrahedral cells. A famous everyday moment of legendary Hollywood actress Audrey Hepburn with a pet deer at a supermarket in Beverly Hills. A vintage sedan loaded with a huge amount of luggage stacked on the roof and rear of the car on the streets of Palermo. Workers using industrial Singer sewing machines to produce garments in a clothing factory. A German sailor on a torpedo boat. His position may have been chief engineer or stoker, responsible for operating and maintaining the ship's engines. A father captures heartwarming photos of his children and their animals in a rustic village in Poland. The milkman in the photo is J. van der Taas from the Jordan district. He is transporting milk using a cargo bicycle, Backfiets, loaded with milk bottles. The wedding of George Patton. The use of a boomerang instead of a traditional sword symbolized respect for indigenous culture, with the meaning that a boomerang always returns to its owner. The photograph captures an emotional everyday moment in the French capital, portraying the interaction between people and the urban environment. In the photo are actress Angie Dickinson, Feathers, and actor Dean Martin, Dude. They are posing beside a film camera at Old Tucson Studios, students using microscopes for studying and research. In the back of the classroom are display cabinets containing preserved biological specimens and animals in a biology class at Glenville State College. 3 Indigenous Australians sitting on a motorcycle with a sidecar. The vehicle was identified as an AJS motorcycle, commonly used for expeditions. Telephone operator, 1920s. A busy scene inside a newsroom where the people in the image are highly focused on reading, writing, or organizing documents and files on large office desks. The artwork, This Is My Country. Daily life in the Kennedy Hill Indigenous community in Broome, Australia, before the community was shut down by the government. The rider sits inside the circular frame of the large wheel and controls the motor mounted on the central axle, a unique mode of transportation. Actress Barbara Eden is tasting spaghetti sauce made by another movie queen. Delivery workers often carry large baskets filled with bread, galetas, roscas, and other baked goods, all stacked high on their bicycles. Aboriginal men in traditional painted ceremonial attire stand alongside others in Western clothing during a staged Australian Aboriginal corroboree ceremony. The women in the image are carrying out the hard work of hand-washing laundry at a public washing area along the banks of the Naviglio Pavese Canal in Italy. 2 boys are fooling around on the street, with one riding a bicycle while the other holds onto a vintage, woody car. The cart carries glass milk bottles certified as tuberculin-tested milk. It is a traditional hand-pulled cart from Woburn Dairies, a small dairy company in London. A mother tries to protect her young daughter from the horrors of war in Italy during World War II, in a scene from the war film 2 Women. The Tasmanian tiger, an extinct carnivorous marsupial. Although it resembled a dog in appearance, it had distinctive stripes across its back and tail. The legendary band, The Beatles, performing at the Palais Ballroom in Aldershot, Hampshire. Due to problems with the advertising campaign, only about 18 people attended the concert, a common home remedy for dental problems. Before modern dentistry became widely available and accessible, families often had to handle dental issues at home themselves. Legendary Australian boxer, Jeff Fenech. He became a world champion in 3 different weight divisions during his fighting career. A family preparing to head off on vacation. The Citroën DS, famous for its modern design and spacious storage capacity. Families often carried a large amount of luggage for long trips. The Quasar Unipower, a unique urban vehicle with the appearance of a glass cube. It featured 6 sliding doors and was produced in very limited numbers. A man is riding a bicycle with enormous wheels that resemble car tires, beside a child riding a much smaller bicycle. A scene from the classic film La Chiara, which tells the story of a mother and daughter fleeing Rome in search of safety in their rural hometown. A Russian Cossack soldier performing a sword-swallowing act. He was a member of a Russian Cossack troop touring the United States. The artwork, This Is My Country, reflects stories of discrimination, the pain of losing connection to sacred land, and the survival of Indigenous people facing the threat of displacement due to government policies in Broome, Western Australia. The boundless love of a man riding a very tall one-wheeled bicycle to kiss a woman by a window in Paris. Early balloon aviators preparing for a flight. The balloons used during this period were typically filled with hydrogen rather than hot air. and were known as gas balloons, capturing the carefree games of children from the past that required no technology. A childhood that was once poor, yet magical. The musical milkman was the nickname given to milk delivery workers in the 1930s, who often carried portable record players to play music while delivering milk. Hollywood actresses Anne Baxter and Ann Miller taking part in a strip poker game. The event was organized to collect clothing for relief efforts by the United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Administration after World War II. A woman wearing a plaid dress is using a classic cylinder-style vacuum cleaner, a common household appliance in middle-class homes. Two children are sitting beside glass milk bottles, whispering to each other. This is the famous artwork, Confidences. A child is carefully blowing soap bubbles from a bowl. Children playing a traditional folk game with wooden spinning tops. The spinning tops were often handmade by the children's fathers or grandfathers. Silent Movie 1 by photographer Lawrence Winram. It is part of his art project, Mythos Logos, which explores mysterious and symbolic elements. A Satam Melangeur gas pump, designed to mix oil and gasoline for two-stroke vehicles in Johanneshof, Stockholm. A man carrying a large number of wooden chairs and woven wicker products on his shoulders and head, while selling chairs in Naples, Italy. Residents and city workers clear deep snow from streets and sidewalks, using shovels and snowplows during a major snowstorm in the United States. Two boys working in a vineyard, carrying smaller grape containers than the adults, but having to make more trips during the harvest. An American sculptor creating prosthetic masks in her studio in Paris. Anna Coleman Ladd was famous for making thin copper prosthetic masks to help soldiers with facial disfigurements during World War I. Female telephone switchboard operators working at a large exchange center. The operators use large control panels with numerous switches and plug-in cords to connect telephone lines.